بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وعلى من تبع هداهم إلى يوم الدين. After praising Allah the Almighty Subhanahu wa Ta'ala and fasting salutation upon His Messenger Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, we praise Allah Azza wa Jal that Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala made us to start beginning our classes, and hopefully those classes will be for us on the day of resurrection when we need them. And hopefully as well those classes will be to enlighten ourselves and to remove the ignorance that we need to remove, because this is the intention that we should have when we come to classes of knowledge, is that to remove the ignorance of yourselves and also to remove the ignorance of others. After you have learnt, there is a zakah to be paid on this knowledge, and the zakah is actually to go and give the da'wah ala basira, on knowledge. And the administration actually had asked me to tonight talk about the virtues of Muharram, which I have talked about more than once in this masjid, alhamdulillah. But as I said, it's not just a request from the administration to talk about it, which funnily enough I've seen it just only today, a request. I was going to start a class, but when I saw the request, I said, okay, I will do the Muharram inshallah. But it's also a demand that we should have from our religion, because the Prophet of Allah, whenever there is an occasion, like for example the occasion of the eclipse, he would address the issue of the eclipse. Same thing here, when we have an issue regarding the month that we need to remind the people about it, then we will remind the people about it. And Jazakallah khairan for taking the echo. So, Prophet of Allah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, you know that he had repeated once the khutbah on the following day consecutively. So you made a khutbah in Arafah, same khutbah, word to word, letter to letter on the following day. So there is no harm of repeating a class that we have said maybe a year ago or 2 years ago. And every time that we repeat the class as well, there must have some sort of been something as an addition, or something that's been taken away. So if you add all of them together, they might come up with the full version of Muharram and the verses of Muharram. You don't have that much time because it's now 8 o'clock. Isha, I think it's 8:30. Yeah, that is 8:30. 8:18, and the Isha is 8:30. So we have to divide it into two halves, one half now and one half after that, with the question, inshallah. And I will start my reminder regarding the Muharram with a different start from the ones before. And I would link it to something which is very important, that we need to bear our mind ourselves to it. For verily, when the Prophet ﷺ told us about that the more that we go towards the day of resurrection, the more that we're going to be holding to our religion like we are holding to the burning coal. And that is noticeable, especially to the ones who are knowledgeable, the ones who are pious. They know that they are at the moment just like they're holding a burning coal or a burning charcoal. The religion is not easy these days. And even yourself, you're not really responsible of breeding or nurturing or teaching your kids. There are other elements which are much powerful than you are, starting with the media and also with the TV and also the environment of the school and all of that. So you've got lots of shayateen coming from every direction, and you're trying to fight this and fight that and fight this. And Allah musta'an. So it's a jihad, it's a struggle. But we're not going to give up, and we're going to keep doing it according to the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And it can't be more ignorance than the ignorance that the Prophet of Allah taught himself at the beginning in Mecca. The Messenger ﷺ in Sunan al-Tirmidhi is a narrated hadith which is narrated from Jubayr ibn Nufayr. Jubayr ibn Nufayr is one of the scholars of Bilad al-Sham. He's a scholar that he had lived at the time of the Prophet of Allah, but he did not see the Prophet of Allah, which makes him one of the followers, not from the companions. But he's a great scholar. He met Abu Bakr and he met Umar and Uthman, companions. He narrated from them as well. And Jubayr ibn Nufayr, rahimahullah, he said I've heard Abu Darda. Abu Darda is a companion of the Allah, saying that we were with the Prophet ﷺ one day. The Messenger of Allah said, هذا أوان أن يختلس الليل. This is the time when the knowledge will be snatched. Ikhtilas means snatching. Snatching while you're awake. Snatching while you are aware of what's going around. But you're going to be taken away, this knowledge. قال هذا أوان أن يختلس الليل. This ikhtilas of the ilm, it could be taking the knowledge away. It could be that the knowledge is there, but you're not benefiting from it. The knowledge is there, you're not benefiting from it. The knowledge is there, but there is no, as in the hadith as well later on, that is the awiyah, which is the scholars, the containers of knowledge. So you got knowledge, but you don't have scholars to teach that knowledge. It's like you have this very updated sort of machine, and this machine is well beyond your capability. So it's sitting in your house and you can't use it. Same thing. The knowledge is there, you can't use it because the scholars are not there for you to teach you what is that and what is this, and what you should do and what you should not know, and what should you avoid and what should you keep. So one of the people who were sitting down, a companion called Ziyad ibn Labid al-Ansari al-Khazraji, from Khazraj. He's a man whom they call him Muhajiri Ansari. Why is he Muhajiri? He's Ansari. Because what happened is before the Prophet migrated from Mecca to Medina, he went from Medina to Mecca and waited until the Medina migrated to Medina, and he migrated with him. Do you understand me? So he was in Medina, and he went to, as soon as he embraced Islam, and Islam came to him from Mus'ab ibn Umayr, he went to Mecca and waited for the Prophet to make the migration to Medina, and he migrated back home. So he called him Al-Muhajiri Al-Ansari. Ziyad ibn Labid Al-Ansari radiallahu anhu, he says, Messenger of Allah, how come the knowledge will be snatched away from us? And we have read the Quran. So here, look at this fiqh of this companion. He's linking the knowledge to the Quran, which is true. But the Quran in itself is not enough. Because those people who are min khawarij and min khuruj, they were not just knowing the Quran, they're hafaz. But yet they meant khuruj and killing against the Muslims. Why? Because they did not have any scholars amongst them. They did not listen to the scholars at the time. So he said, we have read the Quran, Messenger of Allah. And wallahi, we're going to read it and teach it to our kids and to our wives. That's when the Prophet ﷺ, he said to him, ثَكِلَكَ أُمُّكَ يَا زِيَادْ. May your mother lose you. That means death upon you. Which is meant now these days for, we call it in Arabic, ta'ajjub. That is, what are you talking about? We're talking about nonsense. What are you talking about? It doesn't mean that may Allah make you to die. The linguistic sort of literal meaning. So he said, for verily I used to reckon you from the fuqaha of the Medina, a great scholar of the Medina. I used to reckon you like this, but when you speak like this, you're not. He said, didn't the Christian and the Jews have the Torah with them and the Injil? Christian and Jews, they had the Torah, the Old Testament. And the Christian had the Bible amongst them. What did it do to them? What benefit did it give them? So, for verily, the knowledge will be snatched. Jubayr ibn Nufayr, rahimahullah, listening to Abu Darda, narrating this hadith from the Prophet of Allah, he left and he still got some doubt in his heart. I mean, is that right? Did he hear it properly? So he met Ubadah ibn Samit, a great companion. And he said, أبصر ما يقول أخوك. Abu Darda. See what is, can you just validate? Can you validate, verify what your brother Abu Darda is saying? What did he say? So he mentioned in this hadith which I mentioned to you just now. He said, صدق Abu Darda. Abu Darda said the haqq. And shall I inform you, the first knowledge that will disappear? Al-khushu'. Submissiveness. You could call it humbleness. You could call it scrupulous. But submissiveness is the best word. Al-khushu'. And tadkhul al-masjid al-jami'. You enter the masjid which is big masjid. Bigger than this or even this size. Or bigger than this size. وَلَا تَكَادُ تَرَى فِيهِ رَجُلًا خَاشِعًا. You don't find a single person who's called khushu', submissiveness. That means people just making prostration, ruku', sujood, Allah Akbar, raising up the hands, salam alaikum, but there's no deen, no khushu'. The inside is gone. Subhanallah. This is really amazing. There's no khushu'. So the religion is what? Merely just outward. It's not inward. This hadith shakes its hand with another hadith. This hadith, the other one, which is links to our talk, that is the Muharram. The second hadith is the hadith of Hudayfa ibn al-Yaman radiallahu anhu. And this is by the grace of Allah Azza wa Jal that I have looked at the two hadith and I could see, subhanallah, the link between them. It's talking about what is happening these days. And that is the hadith of Hudayfa, Aminu Sirri Rasulullah, the whole of the secret of the Prophet of Allah. When he says in front of some of the companions and others from the generation that came after the companions, يَدْرُسُ الْإِسْلَامِ كَمَا يَدْرُسُ وَشِرْثُ. Islam will disappear. Again, linked, snatched, will disappear. Just like the pattern in the clothes will disappear. Allahu Musta'an. Remember, that is, Al-Islam will disappear, fade out. Just like the pattern in the clothes will fade out. حتى لا يدرى, to the extent that there will be no one to know about the following: Salah, wala nusuk, wala sadaqah, wala siyam. People will forget about praying, they don't know anything about charity, nor about slaughtering, nor about fasting. ولا يُسْرَ على كتاب الله في ليلة. And the book of Allah will be snatched from the people's mind, from the computers, from everything, in one night. And that is at the end of the time. حتى لا يبقى في الأرض منه آية, to the extent that there will be a single verse left on the face of the earth. ويبقى طوائف من الناس. And the ones who are left, few people, الرجل الكبير والمرأة العجوز, the old man and the old woman. يقولون, they say, أدركنا آباءنا على لا إله إلا الله فنحن نقولها. أدركنا آباءنا على هذه الكلمة. That we have lived to see our fathers, our parents, grandfather, saying the following word: there is no God worthy of worship except for Allah alone. So we're saying it. That means they don't know anything from Islam except for that. One of the people who was sitting is called Silat ibn Zufar. He's questioning now Hudayfa. يا حذيفة وما تنجيهم وما تنفعهم لا إله إلا الله هم لا يدرون صلاة ولا صيام ولا نسك ولا صدقة. What sort of benefit is going to give them this La ilaha illallah when they know nothing about the prayer, the fast, the charity, and the slaughtering? The slaughtering is linked to the Hajj, by the way. The Hajj. So he went quiet. Second time, he went quiet. Third time, when he repeated it, Hudayfa, it's like saying to him, stop speaking nonsense. تنجيهم من النار, تنجيهم من النار, تنجيهم. It will save them from the fire. It will save them from the fire. It will save them from the fire, whether you like it or not. He reminds me of the argumentations that is presented by the Takfiri. Those Takfiri people who come to some of the text, Quran or Sunnah, and start, impose upon them their own understanding that is totally detached from the understanding of the companions. So they come to the verses which are directed towards the kuffar, they make it towards the Muslims. So they make takfir. First one, hakim. Hakim is kafir, and it must be that anybody who's associated to the hakim is a kafir. So the driver of the hakim is a kafir. The family of the driver of that hakim is a kafir. The next of kin of the family of the driver of the hakim is a kafir. The friends of the next of kin of the family of the driver of the hakim is a kafir. So they make takfir upon who? Everyone. So look at that, understand. These people, they didn't understand anything from the religion except for La ilaha illallah. Yet it saved them from the fire. But this is not the point I'm really trying to focus upon. The point is that the Islam is fading out. Just like the pattern in the clothes is fading out. And now the Prophet of Allah is the one who spoke these words. And I'm saying the Prophet of Allah because he is the one who had said about himself, "Utitu jawami al-kalim." I have been given the most eloquent words. Very few words in numbers, vast meanings in what? Vast. You don't need volume to explain those words. So when he speaks, he doesn't speak just like anybody. And when he gives an example, it's not like giving an example like anybody. So when he says in this hadith, the Islam is fading out, so we know that the Islam, how's it going to fade out? The knowledge, the scholar's going to die, it's going to fade out. It's not going to go switch off, switch on, no, fade out slowly. Like the clothes, in the pattern of the clothes, it fades out. So it's going to take a long process. That's number one, long process. It's not going to be. Number two is that the fading out is that nobody's going to know it. You're not going to until you are one of the two. Because the fading out is going to be the slow process. You don't notice it. The ones who notices it are one of the two. One, which is the one that he takes an image, picture of the first pattern when he bought the clothes. Then after 2 years, looks at it. He can't realize until he makes the picture, brings it to the pattern, and then he matches it. So how can we do now the difference between, how can we know fading out? Bring the image of what the image at the time of the companions, time of the Prophet of Allah, bring what they were doing, compare with what's happening today, then you know the difference. When Aisha radiallahu anha, she had said what she had said at her time of the death of the Prophet ﷺ, if the Prophet of Allah was alive, he would have prevented the women to come to the masjid. SubhanAllah. That is her time. If the Prophet of Allah knew what the women are going to do after his death, he would have prevented them from coming to the masjid. So if you live to see what is happening now, forget about preventing them from coming to the masjid, coming out of the house. But Prophet of Allah speaking from divine. And Aisha, she's not saying that Prophet of Allah is making a mistake, but she's saying how is the big amount of change that's taking place within a very small gap of period. Very small periods. From the Prophet of Allah till his death, later on Aisha, she's saying, his wife. This is the first way to know it. So take an image and then look. Second way is the manufacturer. So if you bought some clothes with new pattern, and let's say you got to the manufacturer and you said to him, I bought this yesterday and I want to exchange it. The manufacturer said, hang on a second, this is not really being bought yesterday. They'll bring you one from inside and mention, no, this is the one which is new. Yours at least 2 years. At least. I remember when I bought a car, and I was really a person who doesn't know anything about cars that much. So when I bought a car, it looks really nice from outside. So I thought, mashallah, 90,000 miles on the clock, very good diesel, mashallah. Following day, a brother who's an expertise in this field, he looked into the accelerator, wear and tear there, and said, this is not 90,000, this is 290,000. Then he looked inside of the back and he looked, oh, this is definitely more than 290,000. And this is not 90,000. You can see. The accelerators, all these groove things, it's gone, finished. SubhanAllah, I didn't know anything about this. And then later on, when this system of coming, how do you know the mileage to the internet, then I knew that, I looked, how can it be? The first year, the first MOT, second, because you've got a list of MOT. It's come to 200 and then come back to 60,000. How can it work like this? Or 60,000 stuck for 2-3 years. The conning system. So the manufacturer will know. The scholars, they are the manufacturers. They will know. If you ask them, there is fading out. But the fading out is not really fading out of the shine. Fading out is a whole pattern. Because the Prophet said, the salah, the siyam, the charity, the slaughter, which is the hajj, people will not know about it. These are the principles of Islam. So the pattern itself is finished. So whether it's triangle, it's not triangle anymore. If it's a circle, so forget about the shining. The pattern is gone completely. To the extent that the people, they don't recognize their clothes. Same thing in the religion here. As the Prophet, as one of the companions said, if the Prophet is to live to see what is happening, he would not recognize anything from the deen except for the salah. That's it. Everything's changed. Everything has changed. Lots of things change in the deen. Now what is the link between this and our topic, which is Muharram? Muharram, you see, is one of those months which is at the moment, slowly people are not paying attention to it. One of the sha'a'ir, symbols of Islam that we need to adhere to and make sure that we don't lose it, sighting the moon. Sighting the moon, there's a fighting upon the sighting of the moon. There are people there with everything they've got, the might they have got, they're trying to kill this cool moon sighting. They want to base everything upon what? Astronomical calculation. That's it. And they have succeeded, because we don't have moon sighting except for what? 4 months. 3 months and 1 month just. Ramadan, Dhul Hijjah, Muharram, and Sha'ban, to make sure that Ramadan is okay. You never heard about sighting of the moon of Rabi' al-Awwal. Have you heard about, there was something wrong with Saudi Arabia because sighting the moon in Rabi' al-Awwal is different from the astronomical calculation by 2 days. Have you heard about that? It's only on Ramadan and Dhul Hijjah to know the Eid and the Hajj, Arafah and all of that. And Muharram, just for the 10th of Muharram, that's not much. That's not that much. Muharram is not that much. And Sha'ban to make sure Ramadan is okay. Apart from that, there is nothing. That is happening. That is what is happening now. So the sighting of the moon is slowly dying. And what is taking over? What is taking over is the calculation. And when you have calculation, I think a number of times I talked about it, is the implementation of it is disastrous. It'll affect lots of things, because once you use the knowledge and the science and everything, and you'll end up people sleeping well after sunrise. Brother, Fajr! Why? Sunrise? No, brother, this is the sun in your eyes. Scientifically speaking, the sun is behind the mountain. And this is, by the way, still existing now. Still behind the mountain. But what you see is a reflection of the sun. Oh, what? Yes, that's knowledge, science. So you're going to use this, what's going to happen? You're going to take a person into the grave while his heart is what? Why? Because his what? Brain had died. He's dead. No, he's not dead. He's dead, scientifically speaking. Burying him when he's alive. The lots of things will be that, disastrous. Right? Continue. We left it. The next 5 minutes. Now, this is one of these fading out. So, the sighting of the moon is dying. We need to revive it. Second, fading out, the usage of our Islamic date. Prophet ﷺ, he had said that and the ayah, of course, the Quran, when Allah says, إِنَّ عِدَّةَ الشُّهُورِ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ 12 شهرا في كتاب الله يوم خلق السماوات والأرض منها أربعة حرم. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created heavens and earth, He made the months to be 12. From those 12, there are 4 sacred months. ذلك الدين القيم. This is the straightforward religion. فلا تظلموا فيهن أنفسكم. Do not wrong yourself into those 4 months, sacred months. And also the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned those 4 months by mentioning them in name, the Muharram and Rajab and the Qa'dah and the Hijjah. Those are the 4 months. But in terms of we are at the moment in the year 1439, this is from Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, who had put us for us the dating system with the agreement and the consensus of the companions at this time. But I want to show you that the comparison, how the Ummah was in Izzah and triumph at the time of Umar, and how the Ummah is weak and humiliated at our time. Now, if you look at the only country that used to use the Islamic date, that was Saudi Arabia. Not anymore. Before they used to give the salaries according to Islamic months, the lunar months. Now they give it according to the Gregorian dates. And the danger thing about it is that the Ummah, they haven't done anything regarding this issue. They haven't really spoken about it. It's just, subhanallah. I'm just saying, compare that if the Queen of Elizabeth of England have decided to adopt the Islamic date, what's going to happen? Imagine. Radicalized Queen. She became from the ISIS. True or not? Imagine that she had adopted the Islamic dates. True or not? But when the Muslims adopt the Gregorian date, nothing, no problem. Put that on side and look at the time of Umar Khattab, because the Ummah was in triumph and strong. Umar Khattab at his time used to send letters to the monarchs and the kings, inviting them to the deen of the Islam and telling them what is about, what they need to know about the Islam. So they said to him, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, all of the believers, those kings will not accept these letters and treat them as to be official unless they are dated and signed. I mean, signed by you and dated, because they want to know it's you who has sent it. Okay, no problem. So he had made for himself the stamp, the seal, okay, and the signature. And then he had also now the dates. So look at that. At that time, there was nothing called Islamic date. Right? There was nothing called Islamic date. There was only what? The Gregorian date. Did he use that? No. He going to use Islamic date. After he had conferred with the companions, and they have made the hijrah is to be the starting of the dating of the system, or the system of the dating that is Islamically, after the Bay'at al-Aqaba al-Thaniya, which happened at the end of the Hijjah, and the first month after that Bay'ah, the truce, the covenant that actually shifted the Islamic State from being under the rule of Quraysh to be an independent state in Medina. That is the turning point. Muharram was being chosen for a number of reasons. So he had started giving the date. But listen now, when he sends the letter and stamped, he would write, for example, let's say the 5th of Safar, 15th Hijrah, because you remember when he was at his time, he started 13th of Hijrah, because the 13 is after Hijrah, his rulership, leadership. So he said 15th, for example, Safar, 15th of Hijrah. He never said, which is equal to the 5th of November, 600. Let them figure it out. It's up to them. You don't know. Let them study what is the dating system. They'll figure it out. What is it equivalent to? Why? Because of the power of the deen, Islam. These days, if you put this to a Muslim person, oh brother, you're making it difficult for me. Go to Google, change the date from Islamic to the date that he knows. True or not? That's what's happening. No, Islamically, you figure it out. And that is why Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah was so very strict regarding this issue. Once you give him the date, he says, what, a Christian date you're giving me? Straight away. You're very strict even writing the numbers. You know how he writes the telephone numbers? From the right to the left. Very strict. He doesn't write from the left. So if you read the number of it, you read from the right to the left. Why you read from the left to the right? Well, I remember. It's all, I had the phone number. So 077 will be 077 from the right. Shaykh rahimahullah is keen. Because as I said to you, who knows the fading out? The manufacturers, the scholars. وأسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى أن ينفعنا وإياكم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. We were talking about how we should be very vigilant and knowing the fact that the Islam is being snatched away from us. And we gave the example of the sighting of the moon, and we gave the second example of the dating system. From that as well, you could see the fading out regarding using the days. For example, instead of using Monday, Tuesday, you should be using Al-Ithnain, Al-Thulatha, Al-Arbi'a. If I'm really upset or very sad because the people are not using these days, my upset is more when we know that the people and the institutions, they should be the ones who are holding these things, they are not using them. I'm talking about the masajid. Look at the calendars, the timetable of the masajid. Even our Salafi, except for very few, or Ahl Hadith. So he's using Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Be like Umar al-Khattab. Use الاثنين والثلاثاء. Let the people figure it out. Let them learn the days Islamically. Let them know that. How do they know? If you're going to put 2 days, which is the Sabt, and next to it there Monday, they're going to look at the Sabt. They're going to look at the what? Saturday. Put in the easiest one. Saturday. Make them forget. I was looking about the meanings of those words. Sunday, the day of the sun, because they're worshipping gods. One of them that really caught my attention is the day of Tuesday. The day of Tuesday is the day of a god called T-I-W or T-Y-R. One of the two gods, which is a god of single combat. MashaAllah. So Tuesday is the day of the god of single combat. This is in Google to refer it back how they call it Tuesday. So why don't you just use a thulatha and start to teach ourselves and teach our children, which is thulatha, al-arbi'a, al-khamis. Don't use Wednesdays and Thursdays. So from now on, I'm not going to mention the days except by the what? The Arabic. I used to mention al-ithnain Monday, I'm going to say al-ithnain. You figure it out. Okay? You figure it out. You have to learn. We're going to use the Islamic date because, as I said, it's slipping away from us. Today is the what from the Muharram? Is it? The 6th night? Is it? Yes. The 5th day is finished. The 6th night. And this is 1439. And this is the month of Muharram, where the Prophet ﷺ, he said, أفضل الصيام بعد رمضان صيام شهر الله المحرم. He said, صيام شهر الله المحرم. صيام شهر الله المحرم شهر الله. Just like when you say بيت الله, ناقة الله. When you attribute something to Allah, you make it great. And the only month which has been attributed to Allah is only the month of Muharram. Not even Ramadan was not ever being said, Shahrullahi Ramadan. Prophet said, Shahrullahi Muharram. And it is from the months which are 4 sacred months, but it's called Muharram to increase and emphasize the sacredness of it. So it is from what? The month of Haram, 4 months, and it's called what? Muharram. Prohibited. To emphasize. So it is the best of the fast after the month of Ramadan. But we're not saying that every single day of it is better than any other day in terms of fasting. It's impossible. There are other voluntary fasts outside the month of Muharram better than fasting any day in Muharram. And that is the day of Arafah. Fasting the day of Arafah, but fasting better than fasting any day in the month of Muharram. But the month of Muharram in totality comes second after the month of Ramadan. So increasing the fast. In that month, we're not allowed to unleash an offensive attack. Well, forget about attack at all anyway, I don't do any attack, but I'm just saying, this country they're not allowed, Muslims country, they're allowed to unleash an offensive attack towards the non-Muslims. This is a month which we call it, the Arabs used to call it Al-Mu'tamir, the one that increases because there's no war, people increase in number. Al-Mu'tamir means the word Amara, means that is ibadah, to do sacred as well, to do the ibadah, worship in this month. It has been honored from the beginning, built before Adam alayhi salam, from the beginning it's called Muharram. And in the day which is called the 10th, we call it Ashura. Ashura, the 10th of Muharram. This day was honored well before the people of Quraysh. They are on the religion of Ibrahim alayhi salam, but well before, even when the Prophet of Allah was born and he started to be a youth, he used to fast the day of Ashura before he received the message. The people of Quraysh, according to Aisha radiallahu anha and Sayyid al-Bukhari, they used to put the clothing on the Kaaba on the 10th. So Ashura is the day of clothing the Kaaba. Sacred day. History background behind it, Allahu A'lam. They said it could be that the Quraysh had done a sin, major sin, and they started fasting that day. Well, we know that the Prophet of Allah started fasting that day. And when he received the Islam message, when he was 40 years, still stayed fasting that day. And then when he migrated from Mecca to Medina, and he was keen to make sure that the outskirts of the Medina is secured, and the outskirts of the Medina are full of Jews. So he made sure the Jews would as well go along with protecting the Medina from outside enemies. So he saw them in the second year after Hijrah, fasting and honoring that day and celebrating that day. So he asked them, what is the reason that you are honoring that day? They said, Abu al-Qasim, we believe that the Prophet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had saved Musa alayhi salam and his followers from Fir'aun and his soldiers. So he said, we have got more priority to honor Musa alayhi salam. So he sent for an announcer on the day of Ashura. He who had already eaten, let him continue fasting. And he who had fasted, let him continue fasting. So it became compulsory. To the extent that the companions used to make the children participate. And the hadith says, وَنُصَوِّمُ أَبْنَاءَنَا. We used to make our children fast along with us. We give them the toy made of the cotton in order to take their mind away from the hunger until they break the fast. So the children used to be participating in that fast. So the day of Ashura, when it was made obligatory at that time, companions fasted. So they came to the Prophet of Allah. Should we celebrate it, Messenger of Allah? He said, no, just the fast. Because they used to make festivals. And I'm saying this because there are some Muslims these days, on the day of Ashura, they make tawsi'ah, meaning they treat it like a za'id. They give more money, more cakes and kebab and all of that. That's not from the Sunnah. It's only fast. It's a just fast. The Prophet of Allah, at the beginning of the Hijrah, he used to imitate the Jews in order to bring their heart and reconcile their heart, soften their heart towards Islam. But there was no usage. And there was no benefits. So later on, he started to detach the Muslim identity from the Jews. Just before he died, on the year number 10 after Hijrah, companion said, Messenger of Allah, we are imitating the Jews by fasting the day. He said, verily, if I live for the following year, I will fast the night. And he did not. He did not fast the year. Now the day of Arafah was compulsory only for 1 year, for that year, which is the year second after Hijrah. It was compulsory in Muharram to fast that day, but when in the same year Ramadan came, abrogated the fast of the what? So the Prophet said, he who wants to fast, let him fast, and he who wants to leave, let him leave. But later on he said, fast in the day of Arafah, I hope it will expiate the sin of the previous year. Fast in the day of Ashura, I hope it will expiate the previous year. So it becomes still, it is voluntary, and it is recommended, but it's not compulsory. And that is why Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, Abdullah ibn Umar, and Mu'ayyid ibn Sufyan, all of them, they used to openly not to fast the day. Because they want to make sure that the people, they don't take it as what? Obligatory. Mu'ayyid ibn Sufyan, even on top of the pulpit, he went and addressed the people. He said, oh people, where are you fuqaha? You scholars. This is the day of Ashura. Prophet of Allah, he said, if you want to leave it, leave it. If you want to fast, you fast it. For me, I'm going to fast it. And he wanted to make sure that what? The people, they know it's what? Voluntary. Finally, before we stop, in the last 5 minutes, that in the last 15 years, by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we had the day of Ashura synchronizing with a Sabt. More than 6 times. That's half of the quantity. And every time we have this issue, we have people are asking, what should we do if the day of Ashura is going to be on a Sabt? Last year's weekend, remember it was on Jumu'ah. Now it's on a Sabt. So we don't know what is the ruling of fasting voluntarily on a Sabt. Quickly, I could summarize the opinions of the scholars are to be 3. One said you could fast a Sabt with no restriction, involuntary. Second opinion, that is you could fast a Sabt involuntary as long as you fast a day before or a day after. Third opinion, you may not fast involuntary, only the obligatory. And you know that my opinion is the third one because of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. Now, in a number of occasions I have explained the proofs for that. I'll go through it quickly. We have a hadith which is not authentic. A hadith which is unauthentic, not authentic. Not authentic. Unauthentic. That is, hadith where one of the wives of the Prophet of Allah, she said, the Messenger of Allah used to fast a lot on as-sabt and al-ahad, to be different from the Christian and the Jews. That's unauthentic. We're left with the hadith which are authentic, one which prohibits and one which is, presumably, it will make it permissible to fast as-sabt. One in Sahih, Imam Muslim, Prophet ﷺ, he said, لا تصوموا يوم الجمعة إلا يوما قبله أو يوما بعده. Don't fast al-Jumu'ah except if you fast the day before or the day after. That means don't single out Jumu'ah involuntary. Unless you fast the day before, that is al-Khamis, or the day after, which is what? As-Sabt. This shows us that you are allowed to fast as-Sabt. So, also the second hadith, Hadith Juwayriyah. Juwayriyah, she based Islam in the year 5 after Hijrah, after the Ghazwa of Muraysi' or Bani Mustaliq. So she missed this hadith, she didn't know about it. So she happened to fast on the Jumu'ah. Prophet of Allah passes by her at the end of the day. He said to her, eat. She said, no, I'm fasting, Messenger. She said, did you fast yesterday? And what is yesterday? Al-Khamis. She said, no, Messenger of Allah. Are you going to fast tomorrow? What is tomorrow? Sabt. No, Messenger of Allah. Then take your fast. You're not allowed to single out Jumu'ah. So if she said yes for any of these questions, he would have, the Prophet of Allah let her to what? Fast that day. And what is tomorrow? A Sabt. So that means permissibility of a Sabt. Those are the two hadiths on one side, which makes it permissible to fast a Sabt. But it looks like the second opinion is the one that's stronger, that is to fast the day before or the day after. The first opinion, there's no restriction. The hadith, that opinion is dropped down because the hadith of it is unauthentic. So we're left with two opinions. One which says you cannot fast except if it's obligatory, and one you could say that you fast the day with it. Coming to the hadith which makes the third opinion a bit stronger, or more stronger, or it is the one, especially if you could reconcile with the other ones. The hadith of Al-Busr, or As-Samma, or hadith Abdullah. The three are being mentioned to narrate this hadith. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, لا تصوموا يوم السبت إلا فيما افترض عليكم. Don't fast as-sabt until it is obligatory. ولو لم يجد أحدكم إلا لحى عنب أو عود شجر فليمضغ. If the person finds nothing to break his fast with except for a chewing gum, except for the skin of the grape. The skin of the grape, just to stop here, the chewing gum came because of somebody yesterday. His name is Imam Liban. He's the Imam and his name is Liban. And he's a brother from Somalia. So I said, do you know what's Liban? He said, don't tell anybody. Liban means chewing gum. So Imam chewing gum. I stuck to my mind. So the skin of the grape or the wooden stick. Chew into it to break your fast. Which means you're not allowed to fast except unless it is what? How can we reconcile here? There are principles and also we could reconcile. The principle that you could use here, Prophet ﷺ, a number of hadith had said, from which the scholars have derived the following principle. Al-Hadir yuqaddam ala al-mubih. The hadith that prohibits takes precedence over the hadith that permits. The text that prohibits would take precedence over the one which permits. So the hadith says don't do, and the hadith says do, the don't do takes what? Precedence. This is a principle we're taking from a number of hadith. Because Islam, when it came, lots of things were permitted and Islam prohibited that. So when Islam talked about the wine, he made it prohibited. So when we say the prohibition of the wine, nobody comes to say to you, how do you know the prohibition is the last thing? It could be that the Prophet of Allah made it halal after that. Say the principle, prohibition takes priority over the what? Same thing with pork and all of that. So the prohibition takes precedence. So the hadith that permits the sabt and the hadith that prohibits, the prohibition takes precedence. Number 2. What are the obligatory that the sabt is allowed to be fasted? Ramadan, compensating Ramadan, the vow, the expiation. Those are the 4 categories of obligatory, where sabt is no problem according to the consensus of the scholars. The 5th category is the reconciliation between the hadith now. Juwayriyah, she said that she was fasting on Jumu'ah. She didn't know that you cannot single out Jumu'ah involuntary. So she fasted the day. It's about now Maghrib time. Prophet said, are you going to fast tomorrow? She said, no, then break your fast. She said yes. He would say, continue your fast. So we say here, to argue this hadith and to make it a long, because it's better to not to cancel the hadith, but to make it work and functional, is that if the person, out of ignorance, he didn't know, he had singled out Jumu'ah in a voluntary fast, then sabt becomes compulsory. Khalas. So fasting the sabt becomes compulsory on you. We add it to the categories of Ramadan, compensating for Ramadan, and also that is the expiation and the vow. The 5th category. There's a delicate understanding, as our Shaykh al-Halabi used to say, delicate understanding of the Shaykh al-Bani, rahmatullah. So this is to arbitrate, and we've got this to say now, we don't fast as-sabt, regardless whether it's the day of Arafah, or the day of Ashura, or any day. Just like if you're fasting al-Ithnain wal-Khamis, and happens to be the Ithnain is the day of Eid, do you fast? No. Al-Khamis, the day of Eid al-Fitr, do you fast? No. Are you telling me that we're going to lose an expiation from the previous year because of your fiqh? No. We're not going to lose it. We're not going to lose that. We're going to actually, I'm going to be a person on as-sabt, not fasting the Ashura. I'm going to consider it to be fasting. You're going to be abstaining from the food. I'm going to be eating my kebab. I'm still considered fasting. How do I know that? Because the Prophet ﷺ said, he who abandons something for the sake of Allah, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will exchange him with something better. Allah will give him something better. And the Prophet of Allah also, he said, when the person travels or he gets ill, Allah will command his angels, write, he's the right angel, write for my slave everything that he used to do when he was healthy and resident. So if you were ill for the rest of your life, but you used to fast al-Ithnain wal-Khamis, when you were healthy, Allah will write for the rest of your life al-Ithnain wal-Khamis, al-Ithnain wal-Khamis, al-Ithnain wal-Khamis. There was a question when I was talking about this issue in front of some brothers. My brother, he said, so if, for example, I was ill in Ramadan, and I did not fast for my illness, so after Ramadan, do I have to compensate? Because Allah wrote for me that I am, You see the understanding now? So first of all, Ramadan is compulsory. It's number 1. Number 2, yes, if your illness is a long-term illness, you don't have to fast those days. You should pay fidya, khalas. But if it's a short-term illness, then you have to compensate. As for you who are ill, you're excused from the sin, because it's compulsory. Whereas the voluntary you cannot compensate. So for example, if you have missed al-Ithnain, you don't compensate the following Ithnain. Do you understand that? Ithnain is gone, it's finished, unless you are a Hollywood film reversing the days or something else. But Ithnain is gone. Ramadan, when it's finished, there is, Allah made it for us possible to compensate for the one, for the missed days. So you exempted from the sin because of your intention, but you have to fast the days. Right, coming back now. So because of this issue, I say we fast. And because of this issue, I adopt the opinion that there is no fast on a sabt regardless, except if it's obligatory. Do I fast the 9th? Well, we know that the fact that fasting of Ashura is at 3 levels. Level number 1, which is the top, fasting the 9th and the 10th. There were lower level, fasting the 10th and the 11th, to be different from the Jews. The 3rd level, which is the bottom one, fasting the 10th on its own. Now already I'm not fasting the 10th, so fasting the 9th is no, you could say, illah, or there's no reason for it. Because I'm already different from the Jews, I'm not fasting the 10th anyway. So do I fast Jumu'ah? Well, as a normal day, yes, you fast with al-Khamis. So fast al-Khamis or Jum'ah, but not in the intention of being Tasu'ah. Because Tasu'ah is to be fasted along with the Ashura. And the Ashura, you're not fasting it anyway. Increasing the fast, but it doesn't need to fast the whole of the month. And by the way, if you fasted all Muharram except for a Sabt, still you did not do it very well. It's like you fasted the whole month. Do you understand that? So if a person fasted the year except for the prohibited days, which is the day of the Eid, the day of Tashriq, and the day of the Sabt, he's still under the hadith of the Prophet of Allah, مَا صَامَ مَنْ صَامَ الدَّهْرِ. He did not fast, the one who fasted the year. He's under that threat. Basically, you have to leave from those days which are not prohibited in order to be considered you're not fasting the whole of the month or the whole of the year. Same thing with the Muharram, you have to leave some of the what? Some of the days. So it's not just simply leave Sabt and that's it. And the best of the fast is the fast of Dawood. Still applicable in Muharram. Still applicable to the month as well. If you fast 3 days of the month, it's like you fast in the whole of the month. That's Abu Dhar, you remember? Radiallahu anhu. Abu Dhar is the one who had some guests coming to him. I guess one person. And he asked his wife to bring the food. After a bit of row between him and his wife, she brought the food. And then, because it's little food, by the way, I think she bought it from the neighbors. When she brought it, he said, eat. So he said, come on, eat along with me. So he said, I'm fasting. Because he wants to eat on his own. But he was not fasting anyway. He said, I'm fasting. As soon as the guest is finished and left a little piece of food, he pulls the plate up, he starts eating. So the man is looking with astonishment. He said, what's wrong? He said, I would have thought that anybody would lie except for a companion. Companions don't lie. I didn't lie. He said, you said that you're fasting? You're eating now. He said, I'm not lying. Prophet of Allah, he said, he who fasts 3 days of the month, it's like fasted the month. I fasted my 3 days, so I'm considered fasting. Khalas. Very understanding, this is proper understanding. Proper. So you are not fasting the Sabt, you consider fasting the Sabt. If you adapt that opinion. If you don't adapt that opinion, it's up to you. Whatever opinion you're saying, this is the opinion of those who adopt it. That's how you tackle the ones who are saying to you, that means you're going to lose that year and that expiation. No, I'm not going to lose it. Alhamdulillah. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. By this, we give you for 5 minutes for questions. Please direct the question to the topic. Jazakumullah. Anybody want to ask a question? Please go ahead. Fadal. Can I fast on the Jum'ah with the intention of what? You have ikhtilaf because the scholars, they said, don't fast Saturdays. The scholars were adopted everything. So you made ikhtilaf. You're fasting a Sabt. Sabt is prohibited so much, more than the prohibition of the Eid. You know the Eid? It's called the hadith only. It's Sahih Bukhari Muslim. Naha Rasulullah sallam an siyam al-Eidain. That's it. Prophet of Allah prohibited to fast the 2 Eids. But this Sabt, he says, don't fast it, even if you don't have any food left except for something which is not consumable, eat it. It's like a piece of paper, just chew it. For the sake of to break the fast. So it's more emphasis on the Sabt. So anybody would fast the day of Eid, would they say, oh, I'm going to fast al-Ithnain, even though it's the Eid? Would they do that? Same thing. But that's for the ones who adopt this opinion, because it said this hadith, which is hadith al-Busr, is in question in some of the scholars. They don't really, all of them make it authentic. Once it's authentic for you, khalas. You can't do anything about it. Prohibition takes precedence over permission. You want to stop that?
Sheikh, what comment do you have on Ibn Qayyim when he said the best fast is possible 3 days?
The best of the fast is what?
9, 10 and 11.
The 3 days of what?
Ashur.
Oh, yes. To Ashura. So now coming back, forget about the Sabt. He's asking, Ibn Qayyim, when he says the 9th and the 10th and the 11th, On what basis he says that? Allahu A'lam, there are lots of bases, but I'm just saying, the Prophet of Allah did not say that. And the Abdullah ibn al-Qayyim, there's a narration which is in Sahih ibn Khuzaymah, which is unauthentic, which is a narration that the Prophet says, that is, Hadith of Ibn Abbas, that a day before or a day after. And that narration, if it's authentic, we have no problem to understand why Ibn al-Qayyim had said it. But if you don't have that narration, so we're still stuck with the 9th, with the 10th. And according to our scholars like Shaykh ibn Uthaymeen and Shaykh al-Albani, the 9th with the 10th, but not 9 and 10 and 11. Wallahu ta'ala. Now, and by the way, if you fast the 11, you could fast it as an intention of fasting from Muharram, not fasting it as in to be different from the Jews. You're already different from the Jews. Now.
So the Prophet ﷺ prohibited celebrating on the day of Ashura, but fasting. When companions asked they're celebrating, shall we celebrate as well? He
Said no.
Is there any text from Umar ibn Khattab that don't join the festivities of Mushrikun because Adab of Allah is in that place? Is there any text like that?
Is there any text from Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu saying, I don't know, say the link, what's the link between this?
Festival, the Prophet ﷺ said, don't join the festivities, just prohibited it.
No. You didn't understand what is it. First of all, before we're going to tackle, Umar al-Khattab is saying that if you go to a place of festival, that there will be a adab. Well, even if it's authentic, which I doubt it doesn't really carry any weight. It has to be from the Prophet ﷺ. But let's see now what is the understanding of yours regarding the festival. When they said to the Prophet of Allah, and when he's Messenger of Allah, should we do the festival? It's not sharing them with the festival. They themselves, their own, the companions making their own festival. Not going to the kuffar and making festival with them. So they're making, that means to celebrate the birth of the Ashura, to come in the house and start, making like sort of special food, and just like the Eid. And start making acrobatic movements like the Eid. That's the one, not to participate with the kuffar. No. طيب تفضل بالقادر. هو عابد. نعم. By the way, not the Prophet who said the khushu'. It's Ubadah Mussamit. Okay? That's the understanding of the companion. Go ahead.
I just want to understand how khushu' is described as knowledge.
How's khushu' knowledge? The more knowledgeable the person is, the more supposed to be closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in this hadith, it shows that the person, because the Jews and the Christian had the Torah, as the hadith says, the Christian had the Torah and the Injil, it didn't benefit them. I mean, the knowledge in itself, if it's not implemented, is equivalent to ignorance. So a scholar, عالم غير عامل بعلمه, as the poetry says, that the scholar which is not acting upon his knowledge, he's just like a jahil, kafir, like a ignorant. It's ignorance. So when the people, they perfect their ruku' and sujood according to the Prophet of Allah and everything, yet they don't really implement that outside and everything, then there will be no khushu' in their hearts. So the reflection of the khushu' is from the knowledge. Basically, that's what it is. The link of the khushu'. The khushu' is the proper khushu', of course, not the Sufi khushu', not the bid'ah khushu'. It's khushu' in the heart. Okay? Allahu musta'an. Anybody else? Last question. Off topic question, go ahead with the last question.
Is investing into businesses the same as dealing with stock markets, and is it investing into a business because it has that risk of damage?
Investing into business. I don't know. In general, to invest in a business, we cannot say it's haram unless the details of the business is haram.
So the business had
Invest in it, no problem.
so is it the same as stock markets?
No, actually, stock markets, it's not everything haram in it. Who says haram? No. There are, shares. You're talking about shares. Yeah, there are shares, which are called medium range shares, short shares, short-term shares, and there are shares you can't see them, it's on the computer, seconds. The shares you can't see. Those are the shares which are gambling. Gambling, what is gambling? Gambling is that you will go into a transaction where the risk is very high and the business is not very high. You don't go into the business if it's very high anyway. I mean, this is natural. Very high, and the gains and the loss are very high. And your heart is there. You are really watching, rich, poor, rich, in seconds, in minutes. That's the gambling. But you're investing in a business which is going to take a bit of time, maybe a year or 2 or 3 or a month or 2 months or whatever. So you might, for example, go to business, mashallah. For example, invest in an oil sort of thing. Invest in the oil. Somebody investing, for example, they're producing oil in such a country. They just find some wells. You go and invest, and suddenly the oil prices goes what? Down. You get poor. You lose your shares. But suddenly it goes up, and your shares goes up. Okay, that's alhamdulillah. It's good business. But it's not those, as I said, the ones which are short term, very, very short. I've seen them. They are even swapping on the computer. There is nothing swapped except for numbers on the computer. Okay? That's the stock market you're talking about. That's riba. That's gambling. والله تعالى أعلم. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك. جزاك الله خيرا.